house, So one day he said, hey, you like to help me? I said, yeah, sure. What do you want me to help you with? He said, there's this couple I've been counseling for a year, and I can't figure out what to do with them. I said, if you can't figure out, being a clinical psychologist, what do you expect me to do? I mean, he said, don't you lecture on behavioral psychology? I said, yeah, I do. But that's not psychology. That's just dealing with behavioral aspects of people in a space. I said, that's what I want you to do. I want you to go to their house, meet with them for a few minutes, and come back and tell me what you saw. I said, I can do that. So I go meet with them. We had some tea and we talked, and I looked around their house and just kind of soaking everything they have there, and come back and tell my friend, I said, oh my God, this place they live in, you could take the healthiest human being, would be crazy in a matter of days. There's nothing in that place which could allow anyone to be peaceful. And so, and just before that, a year ago before that, I designed a multi-million-dollar home for a fellow who was rated as one of the best investors in Fortune magazine. And this guy makes a lot of money and brilliant, and is a developer, investor. And he came to me and said, listen, I want you to design me a house that when I come home, I can just calm down and relax. I say, I can do that. I mean, that's my expertise, So I did that. And people would call me up and say, my God, this place is like a shrine, you just. So when I saw Yuval do his music and his concept of connecting with people at a different level than what people generally do with music, I said, here is my hero, Okay, so having said that, I like you to now take a few minutes. We'll start with you all. Tell us about your life, your music, your philosophy, and then we'll go to Richard and let him talk about his life goal. And we kind of all three happen to have similar life goals. We just dealing with different areas. So that's the interesting part of it. So you all, you're on stage now.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. J. Thank you for this warming heart introduction. And I love your stories. I wanted to tell you, after we met last Thursday, we met for maybe 2 hours, and I was left with so many stories. The next 2 days, I just sat with my wife and my kids and shared with them all the stories that you shared with me. So your presence, through your stories, your presence is still here in my garden and in my house.
Thank you all. You're very kind.
So I was born in Israel to a secular family that was not artistic. My mother was an educator, and she loved art, and my father loved music, but they weren't musicians or artists. I grew up with no music in my house. There was no stereo system. There was a little radio, and my parents listened only to talk radio, to the news. And then I discovered the guitar when I was young. I started playing the classical guitar, and I remember the first time I just touched the guitar, and I didn't know anything, and I just strummed the open strings, and the sound of the strings charmed me. I still remember it when I was 11 years old. It sounds just so beautiful without knowing how to play anything, just the open strings of the guitar. And that was my discovery, that I was enchanted by sound, any sound, especially a harmonious sound from instruments. and I became a musician, a professional musician. I came to Boston to study music in Berklee College of Music, and I was interested in writing music for theater and dance. I always enjoyed collaborating with people. I loved working in the theater. That was my first love. When I was 19, I met a group of theater actors in Tel Aviv when I was 19, and I was embraced by them. And I liked the way in theater everybody hugged when you met. When everybody hugged all the time among the theater people, and I liked that warmth, and I liked the collaboration. And when I came to Boston, I specialized in writing music for films, and I studied psychoacoustic, which is a special field. Psychoacoustic is the psychology of sound, how different sounds affect our psychology. And that is a key tool for a film composer. And that's why we learned that from the psychological point of view when I went to major in film scoring. And that helped me later on in working with doctors and scientists. The understanding of psychoacoustics became a very important tool when I worked with Robert Monroe from the Hemisync Sound, the Monroe Institute in Virginia. He's the guy who was a researcher that developed the Hemisync Sound, the binaural beats, the whole binaural beat system of Hemisync Sound. I worked with him when I came out of music school. He hired me to compose music for his Hemisync Sound. So I had the tools to work with him. I also worked with film directors and theater, film, and dance choreographers. And I worked on Broadway musicals. And that work brought me to Los Angeles to work scoring music for films, for Fox Kids. I've done a lot of children television series for Saturday morning television animation, Oliver Twist, and I worked on the Power Rangers, and I worked on many programs for kids. And then I started my ensemble in 2000. I started an ensemble dedicated for promoting peace around the world. And since I came from Israel, the situation in Israel and between the Israel and the Arabic world really started to bother me. And it was a period in 2000, 2001, there were a lot of suicide bombers. A lot of innocent people were blown up in buses, children and women, and there were retaliations, and innocent people on the Palestinian side were killed in military attacks against them. And there were so many innocent people dying senselessly in the streets in 2000, 2001. And it really bothered me every day in the news to hear about it. And because I came from that land, I wanted to do something about it. And I thought, what can I do? I'm just a musician. I have no power over the politicians. There's nothing I can do. So I started from a point that I felt helpless, powerless. I felt that I have no power. And then I thought, where do I have power? In my little relative power, in my little world of music. And I figured out that I have the power as a musical director. I have relative power. I can choose the musicians. I can choose the music. I can present it to the audience. I can explain about it. And that's my little limited power in this world. And I said, I have to use this power to promote peace. And so I created an ensemble of people from the three Abrahamic religions of the Middle East, with Jews, Christians, and Muslims musicians together, working to present sacred music and folklore music of the Middle East from all three religions, and to explain to the audience about it, and to show the commonality in the prayers, the commonality in the music, the common ground that we have beyond the boundaries of religious traditions. And we've been doing this work for the last 20 years all over the world. And it grew to be, a worldwide peace mission trips to all the way to the border of Korea. The South Korean government in 2005 invited us to do a project on the border with North Korea to promote peace with North Korea. We were invited all over the world to demonstrate how we use music to bring people together. And then I met couple of scientists and healers in 2007. A neuroscientist named Mark Robert Waldman invited me to work with him on creating a curriculum for Esalen Institute for neuroscience and music, how music affects the brain, how sacred rituals from different religious traditions, including Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Sufism, contemporary Christianity, how these meditations and prayers affect the brain. And so I created this curriculum for Esalen Institute, and I started collaborating with the neuroscientists. And then I met Dr. Gold in Esalen, and Dr. Gold invited me to work with him on creating healing music based on Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine. And we've been working since 2008, I believe, certainly over the last 8-9 years, creating music for healing and meditation. And our music have been really well received through apps and through many platforms. So there are millions of people meditating and improving their well-being using our music, and we're getting emails and comments how people really benefiting, and it improves their life tremendously. So that is the most rewarding part for me, is to hear back how what we do is really changing the lives for the better, one person at a time. And this is like my piece work with my ensemble. I told my ensemble, if there's one person in the audience that would be more positive about harmony and coexistence with the other, then that would be enough. That would be worth all the effort of that one concert. If we affect,
that's so interesting you say that, because about 4 years ago when I started Joyscore, and instead of publishing the book, I said I'm going to develop an app, and I could have sold hundreds of thousands of copies. I don't know, but then I started developing the app year and a half later. Earlier. And one of the competitors offered $10 million to buy me out, Joyscore. Mm-hmm. And my kid says, Dad, sell it. I said, to do what with the money they're going to give me? He said, put it in the bank. I said, okay, I put it in the bank. So what? It's not going to get me any joy. I have enough money in the bank. So what does that do for me? Nothing. So then about 6 months ago, and I'm at $1.5 million in it now. And my kid's telling me, you're wasting our inheritances. I know, but I'm going to burn it all before I go. So actually, a few weeks ago, I told about 60 people involved in the project, and I made an announcement that over 50% of the Joyscore is going to go to charities. Not me and my kids, because I don't need it for me and my kids. I have enough of my own for me and my kids and their kids. So that's not my worry, I'm interested in helping the world benefit from it, improve their Joyscore. So today, before you guys joined in, we have identified products and collaborations which would help our audience. Number one challenge we have in our life is to fight COVID, the coronavirus, because in March, we have a few scientists and researchers who have expertise in bioscience and earth science and sustainability. I said, guys, I need to see if there are articles to support my idea, which is that, and we have a cardiologist in our group who's been with us for 4 years, and his name is Dr. Fisher. In fact, he's done a podcast with us, and talks about uh, that Joyscore has a direct relationship with heart health. As Joyscore goes up, your heart health goes up. And he said, I've been telling my patients for 30 years that if you bring your stress down, your heart is going to be better and your health is going to be better. So he said, look, it's a no-brainer. You take your Joyscore up, every part of your body is going to feel better because your heart is going to feel better. And then I say it's the same thing about Yuval's music, you know. And so when we found your music, we were looking at music. And soon, sitting right next to me here, asked me, I said, what's the definition of good music for Joyscore? I said, something where I close my eyes and listen to the music. And if I can get a smile on my face, that's the music I want. We are about Joyscore, you know. So it's the same way. So I hired the developers for Joyscore. And I told them the same thing. I said, when people click on our ad, if they can get a smile on their face, then what you're doing is working. Otherwise, it's not working. So that's, so I lost it.
You still on?
It's not there anymore. Sorry, guys. So anyway, going back to you, you all, something you said which has been so true in my heart. And for about 20 years now, I have been so disturbed by suicide bombers. To me, it's okay not to have any significance of your own life. You can go kill yourself anytime you want to. But why kill others? And if I'm not able to help someone or do anything for them, I don't have any right to hurt them either. So if I can't give someone life, I can't take life away either. I don't have the right to do it. So people who do that, to me, are worse than animals. Because animals don't hurt anyone. I haven't seen any animal out there who hurts anybody. You know? But humans are the worst animals on the face of this earth. The worst. The most inhuman. Talking about 2000, 2001, and 2, I mean, that's about the time when I really got very, very unhappy with this whole thing. And I left India years ago. But India has been one of the main suicide bombing grounds in the world because of Pakistan. They have training camps there who only do the training to send people to India to bomb. Like in Israel, you have the same thing. You have people on the other side being trained to go kill Jews. You know, I mean, that's their life goal. I mean, it doesn't matter. Religions don't mean anything to me because you can believe in any religion, and actually everybody should have the right to believe in anything they want to. And but to kill anyone based on religious belief I think is unacceptable to me. It's the most inhuman act. But world is as it is, and we have goods and the bads and everything. So I find your music to have much higher uh, human value because of your beliefs and what you started creating. And the three religions you mentioned are the most adversarial religions in the world because Muslims have dedicated their life, some of them, to kill as many other religions they can because their life is dedicated to suicide bombing. There are training camps in the world who teach people. I was in Iran and I married an Iranian woman, and they had a war, and I could not believe what they were doing. They were putting a chain in teenagers' necks with a key and telling them this key is to heaven if you can go kill people on the other side. So they'll strap bombs on them and say, go, and you'll get to heaven when you get to the other side and it explodes. I mean, what kind of brainwashing can you do to people? I mean, these are kids, for God's sake.
Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, that's terrible. We need to bring more joy to that side, to those neighborhoods. I'd like to share with you one more aspect of my work, which is the most recent one. Only 4 years ago, I decided to start a charity organization, a nonprofit organization called Inspired Sound Initiative, and it's dedicated, inspiredsoundinitiative.org. It's a charity foundation that I started in Los Angeles that dedicated to bring the kind of music and teaching that I do, inspiring music, uplifting music for resilience and for courage and for mental strength, to bring that to underserved communities and youth at risk. So what we do is we send the artists, and now we do it with video because of COVID, we do it with video, but normally we do it in person. So we send it to orphan houses and difficult neighborhoods in South Central and community centers in places where they lock up teenagers, and that's the last chance for them before they go to prison. They have a last chance. They're in a boarding school and they cannot go home. And we go to those places, and we did it also around the world. We did it in a school in Armenia. We did it in India, in Rajasthan, in a school in Rajasthan where they have Christians, Hindu, and Muslim, all Indian kids studying together. And it's such a poor neighborhood in Rajasthan that the parents don't want the children to go to school. The parents want their children to work. And the way the school get the children is that they promise the parents they're going to feed them. So they feed the children 3 times a day, and it's free for the parents. So the parents sending the kids to the schools because of the food, but they get to be educated. The children have a chance to get out of that incredible poverty. And so we went to that school in 2016 to do these workshops. So we go, we were in Colorado, we were in New York, in the Bronx, in the Harlem, in Boston, homeless shelters, so we do this work as a charity. And that's another side of my work, which I realized that a lot of the venues and schools and universities that bring my work, they are very wealthy and well-to-do youth. So we go to Yale University, we go to MIT, we go to Princeton, we go to all those places, Johns Hopkins University. But I created that charity in order to raise funds from donors and foundations, and then send this healing work of music to the neighborhoods that would never get it. They would never be able to get it. So they get it for free. The schools get it for free of charge. They get everything for free. Even We have schools that don't even have a microphone. Can you believe a public school in America? They don't have even a microphone in America. They don't have, and they don't have a theater. They have just a dining room that serves as the gym and the theater.
Wow.
And it's too small for the school because they cannot put all the kids in one room.
Right.
We have to do 3 shows because they can never have even a school assembly. The principal cannot even have one space. This is a public school in California. And we go there to do this work. And when the school is so poor, we even bring, we have the foundation that pays to bring the microphones and the equipment, whatever they need, just so they get this work for free. So that's a charitable work. And I think, we have to do it in all those poor neighborhoods where those teenagers are being recruited by brainwashers that take advantage of the poverty and the desolation and the depression. They take advantage of those youth.
That's very nice. In fact, while you were talking, I was just thinking back years when I have been in education all my life, and as an architect. So I started working as an architect, then I started teaching, and then I became a businessman. And I realized that the most rewarding thing of my life was teaching, because I got the most joy from teaching. I made the most money from business and real estate. People think I became rich from architecture and teaching, which is kind of funny,
Yeah.
because I had a young, handsome-looking guy from Bell State as an architect who couldn't design anything well, but he always brought the cutest clips from Playboy magazine and put on his desk every Monday morning. So I always walked up to see what he has this week, And so there were 2 I can never forget, the most hilarious. One of them was that these, in architecture, we had building blueprints to build buildings from. So these guys were digging a hole in the ground, and they were about 6 stories down, still digging. And someone walked up to them and said, "Guys, you're holding the blueprints upside down." Building is supposed to go up. And then, so when I started practicing architecture, I told my wife, I said, "Listen, I'm an architect, and chances are I'm going to be poor all my life. So I don't know if you want to marry me, because you don't have a good future with me." He said, "Well, I don't care about the money." That's okay. And I said, and also in addition to that, I won't have any money in my life. I also have 2 pretty big weaknesses. He said, "Oh, what are those?" I said, "Well, the first one is I never allow myself to fail, because I don't fail in anything. If I get on it, the only way out is to succeed." He said, "Oh, so you're trying to impress me?" I said, "No, that is the truth." The second one is dangerous. He said, "What is that?" He said, "Well, when I'm out to succeed, I'm like a bulldozer. I'll crush anything in my way. So this is a warning to you. Never get in my way. You'll get hurt." And then she realized I wasn't bullshitting to impress her. That is me, So the joy score is about something which is interesting. I stumbled into how the score came in. My first book was Joy in Health and Happiness, and then I had gone to Harvard Business School for an executive program for 3 years. And so after I retired from everything, I said, the least I can do is hold once a week evening class for my key people in my companies, presidents, managers, so just teach them what I learned myself. So we'll meet Thursday evenings and we have a plan and curriculum, and we also have book reviews. So everybody in the class had to review a book each week and then present it in 5 minutes what the summary of the book is. So this guy did a book called Game of Work, which was written by a football coach. And the philosophy was that in order to succeed in life, you need to know your score. Because this is how he coached all his players. And he said, if my players don't know their score, they can't succeed. This is the difference between pros and amateurs. So in order to be a pro, you need to know your score. That's interesting. Where is my joy score? My book doesn't have a joy score. It's just joy and health and happiness. I said, okay, so I got to start on another book called Joyscore. And that's where it started and ended up being a book and then an app and so on. So somebody asked me a while back, I said, well, if all this money you've invested in it, what if nothing came out? I said, well, look, we got a month later, just from launching, we have 50,000 downloads. So at least 50,000 people got connected with Joyscore, and they got to see their Joyscore. And I'm hoping this Joyscore that they know about is going to help them and inspire them to improve it. Because I learned in education, the minute you know your score, you want to improve it. It's a human reality. Oh, I got a score. The next thing your mind starts thinking, how can I improve it? How can I raise it? This is a human nature. So this is like a self-inspiring reality of life. When we were given birth, educated, nobody ever taught us how to improve our life. We were taught, okay, what are you going to become? I'm going to become an architect, okay? Then you got to do good architecture. In fact, in order for you to survive, you have to be a good architect. Otherwise, nobody would give you a job, whatever it is that you're trying to do. But nobody taught us how to, on an ongoing basis, improve our life, how to live better. And Joyscore does that. It shows you at any given point in your life, you can improve your life by improving your Joyscore. You can improve your health, you can improve your heart health, you can feel better. And that's like learning how to drive. If you have a car and you know how to drive, you can go anywhere. And that's what Joyscore is, a formula, recipe for success. If you know how to get your Joyscore, improve it, you can go anywhere in life because that's the formula for success. So that's me. Let's go to Yuval. Did I give you enough time to talk?
Yes. I think I covered it all.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll go to Dr. Gold and see what we can learn from him.
Okay. Nice to be with you on. I'm not quite the storyteller. I'll be brief. So when I was a 19-year-old pre-med student in 1970, I did a month-long meditation retreat with a Thai Buddhist monk. And this was a life-changing event. One of the main things is I realized how difficult it was to meditate. But also it really changed that in the situation in the world of the Vietnam War and various events of the times, led me out of pre-med and became a religious studies major. And and that's what I realized was the most important issues in my life was self-discovery, and then how to serve in the world, how to be a source of joy, actually, to use the terminology we're at now. And so I was living actually in a retreat as a hermit in the woods of Kentucky for 5 years. And it was during this time that I got called to study Chinese medicine without any preconceived notion about it. And I recognized in retrospect that it brought together my yearning to be a doctor and my desire to be a spiritually based person. And so over the last 40 years, starting in 1978, 42 years now, I've been a clinical acupuncturist and Chinese medical practitioner. And I have to say, this work has brought me tremendous joy to be able to serve. Along the way, I became a teacher, and like you, Dr. J, and Yuval also, teaching is one of the greatest joys in my life, and having that sort of removed in a way because I need the classroom for my kinesthetic approach to teaching, which meaning hands-on and touching. It's been hard during COVID to be pulled away from that. Although I am still practicing clinically, I'm not actively teaching in the classroom. Over the years, I studied and traveled quite a bit. I got to study in China in 1980, in Japan in 1986. And then I started to travel to Thailand to continue my studies of meditation and yoga. And also I love Thai food, I have to say. And it was in Thailand that I discovered their traditional medical massage. And I bring that up now because it was the traditional Thai medical massage, and I was the first person to publish a professionally published book in the field in the English language. And that brought me to Esalen Institute. So all during these years, I had been working to be able to become a competent meditator, and it was a quite difficult pursuit. And at Esalen, I met Yuval. We were both teaching different classes. He was teaching his sound and neuroscience, and I was teaching the traditional Thai medical massage. And we met, and something sparked in me. Now, I'll go back a little bit, is because for about 5 or 6 years before I met Yuval, I had been introduced to binaural sounds to facilitate meditative consciousness. And I really felt that the use of music and sounds had facilitated deepening my experience. And so I recognized, this was without even knowing about neuroplasticity and brain entrainment at the time. I didn't know those concepts, but I was experiencing it. So when I met Yuval and I understood his background, I casually asked him, would it be possible to create a beautiful music that facilitated meditation? Now, I want to
We lost you, Richard.
I want to emphasize the beautiful music part. Not beautiful music, I would say vibrationally is musically dead in some ways. It doesn't have the vitality music performed by acoustic. So that was one of my criteria with Yuval. We wanted to use acoustic musicians. So basically we came together. It was on a whim for me, because again, I've been a clinician, I've been an educator. I actually was one of the founders of the largest school of Chinese medicine in the United States, the Pacific College of Health and Sciences. And but I really felt that there was something else that I could provide. And so I asked Yuval, can we create beautiful music based on traditional wisdom traditions that facilitated healing and mindfulness meditation? And with his background, and then something dynamic and electric occurred between the two of us. A light bulb went off in him and a light bulb went off in me, and we formed this partnership. Initially, we thought it was going to be a one-off. Again, I had no experience as an executive producer of music. I've always loved music. I know that music is the most dynamic influencer of consciousness in many ways. That when you put music on, a room changes, your moods change, the lighting in the room feels different. It's just very conducive to elevating consciousness and joy. And we did the first project based on the traditional medicine of China, which has something called the 6 healing sounds, deeply embedded in Chinese medicine from its origins over 2,000 years ago is the recognition that sound relates to the elements, which relates to the meridians and the organs, which relates to the entirety of the human being. We liked working so much together, and the music was so well received. We said, let's keep going. And then we started to, I've been exploring Ayurvedic medicine. So we did a production on the doshas of Ayurveda. And it's interesting, many people are very familiar with yoga, but deeper into the medicine is the doshas. It's much more clinically applicable. And again, my emphasis was always on the individual and in the clinical healing environment. And we did a project on the chakras, and then we started to weave our music together for particular healing situations: stomach ache, stress, sleep, breathing, things of that nature. And as you've all mentioned, our music through the apps and the feedback we get from people that listen, we just kept getting such positive feedback that it just inspired us to do more and more. And we have a lot of projects that we're working on now. We have a list of things we want to accomplish together in the future. And then somehow the graces of the universe brought Dr. J into our life. And so now we feel like we have this merging of two beautiful energies coming together, where we can use our music in a very focused way with the Joyscore community to broaden our community and broaden our mission. And we're extremely grateful for this. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you, Richard. That's very nice. In fact, for the last few days, I've been thinking about our connection, partnership, and joint effort. And I see all three being an amazing combination. For instance, Richard, are you there?
Yeah, I seem like.
Okay. So I like to suggest that you don't feel limited because of coronavirus and COVID, but start developing.
I'm here.
Okay. Start developing educational programs, courses, where you teach people how to touch themselves. You know, like the other day you were talking about you're touching your face, ears. I mean, you can take all those techniques and show people how to heal themselves, because the times have brought us to a point where a Joyscore is virtual, but you all's music can be heard without him through his channels and sounds, and you could do the same thing. People can learn your expertise, and you can leave a legacy behind by teaching people how to heal themselves. You can create CDs. This CD is how to do this, next one is that, and so on and so forth. And I have sort of, in fact, having invested all the money I have in Joyscore, now I'm being asked to think of monetizing it, and for it to succeed as a business, it has to stand on its own feet. And that's what I'm doing now, which is to create channels. We have, for instance, set up Amazon affiliate and Amazon commercial accounts, so we can sell anything, we can push anything on our app, on our programs, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to talk to Sandy about how some of your CDs could be marketed through our channels and audience, because a few years ago, and I'm going to one day invite you to my home and show you a chart on the side of my refrigerator, which shows Joyscore. And this is what I developed. I sketched out a program 4 years ago when we started meeting as a board, where one of the elements of our plan was a social media platform. At that time, I had said something like Facebook. But then later on, when I found out about TikTok, I said something like TikTok. So we call it Joy Stories. And the Joy Stories is a platform where you connect with others and share your stories, positive, uplifting stories of kindness, because that's how we get joy in our life, by being kind to someone else. Kindness is an amazing reality, which people don't realize how powerful it is to be kind to others. And it's like when you are mean to someone, who you really hurt most is yourself, not others. And when you kind to someone, you help yourself and reward yourself with that kindness, because we have a happiness coach, Connie Rose, and she's English, who lives in France. She grew up in England. And she talks about that the first thing you need to learn about happiness is to learn to love yourself. Because if you don't know how to love yourself, and then when I was thinking about Richard, I said, we also have to learn how to touch ourselves. Rich can tell us and teach us how to touch ourselves, to heal ourselves. It's like we have a program which is Joyscore, which is self-guided educational program for success. That's the bottom line of this program. It's an educational program. It's based on a book. It has 9 chapters, 3 in life, 3 in mind, 3 in body, and 3 in life, And it's a complete program for your life, how to improve every aspect of it, to have a balanced life. It's like a life manual, when you grew up, you went to college, you got your degree, you started working, and you said to yourself, okay, now next, what? I still don't know how to live. I still don't know how to live better, or what to do about my life, I'm able to earn some money and have a boyfriend or a girlfriend and make some kids, but that's it. What do I do next? Nobody taught me how to live. So Joyscore is a formula for life, shows you how to live, how to improve your life. So it's like one of those things where my Joyscore is incomplete without Richard and without Yuval, and you two have made it a complete program. And I'm so thankful and happy that I have both of you as part of Joyscore. Now we have, years ago when I wrote the book and came up with this idea, I have a complete program. But then I said, I don't have any music. I need music. Music has to be part of it, Without music, you can't survive. And then Richard started talking about the fact that he can't heal people anymore because he can't touch them. I said, Richard, show them, teach them how to touch themselves. It's a new concept, And I'm sure they can't give themselves the complete body massage, but they can do a lot of things, still without the full body massage, and still help themselves. So anyway, I am so excited today, having found my partners, my brothers, in a plan of action for the future. And I thank you both, and thank you, Amanda and Eddie, to join us today and be part of our podcast. And we'll meet every Wednesday at 9:30. Right? Today start 9:30? Yeah. And by the way, all of you or any one of you who's interested is welcome to join us There are 3 other podcasts which are weekly scheduled. And the next one is at 8:30 on Friday, at 9:30 on Friday with Connie Rose. And she's going to join us from France. And she's a happiness and addiction coach. Then we have this Friday, she's not in, but she's expecting a baby who is 9 weeks away. 9 weeks? No. How many weeks? 4 weeks away. 4 weeks away. Then she even did some yoga poses for prenatal audiences that we have. And she is meditation, food and recipes, and yoga coach. And you would not be able to guess. There's a football team she coaches because she's in Seattle. So you can guess what football team is in Seattle. Seahawks. And she was saying it's so funny when I'm trying to teach these big guys to touch their toes. She says it's hilarious to watch them try to do that. They can't. The bodies are big and strong, but inflexible. So anyway, she is at 4:30 on Friday. And at 1 o'clock, we have 2 young ambassadors. Anya is 16, a star tennis player. And Graham is at University of Oregon doing journalism. And Anya is just starting at San Diego, UC San Diego. And I host that one with them. And we talk about, there was a magazine, we have a copy of it around happiness. So Time magazine had a special edition about happiness, which we used topics from that magazine for our podcast with Anya and Graham. And so they are part of my youth or young ambassadors that I do a podcast with them. So now we have the 4th podcast added to our podcast, which is today at 9:30. And we try to keep them to about half hour. Today we took a little longer, it being the first one. And then I had this idea, which I'm going to talk to Amanda. She has acting background, by the way. And when I was looking through her background, it came to my mind. I said, you know, I've been wanting to have a podcast host who has skills in hosting, you know, because it's an art. And I'm the worst, you know. You know, my students love me, but they also told me that I'm not very glamorous. Oh, I got to tell you this story, okay? Oh my God. So you haven't heard of this guy. His name is Chernick. He is the counterpart for Bill Gates, because Bill Gates is on personal systems, but Mr. Chernick owns a company which does systems for offices and businesses, you know, but they're both big, you know. So he, after living his life in early 60s, married this young attorney in 20s, you know, and invited 11 architects to design a house. for him, this odd couple. He's in 60s. His kids are older than her, you know. So she wants a new house, you know. So he bought 40 acres of land right behind Getty Center. You know where Getty Center is in LA? Right behind it. There's a ranch called Mandalay, you know, Mandalay Ranch. And 40 acres for $31 million. He wants to spend another $50 million building the house. So he invited 11 architects to do a competition, give them each $25,000 to come up with an idea, present it, and the winning architects gets the project. That's how architectural competitions go. So we did the competition, and we all presented it to him as his wife, you know, and there was a project manager, Greg. So after the presentations, Greg called me up and said, man, oh man, you know, your project had nothing to do with any other architects. I didn't see any other architectural projects because we were just supposed to go present ours and get out, you know. So I said, what were they like? They said, nothing like yours. You know, yours was just way out there. I said, really? I said, yeah. And so I said, then I got the project. He said, yeah. So then I got a call from Mr. Cherny the day after. He said, Professor Singhal, I wanted to congratulate you on your outstanding project. I said, thank you. He said, but I have a little bit of a bad news. I said, what could be bad about it? He said, well, there is, and I don't even know how to tell you. I said, look, I'm a grown-up man. Just tell me, plain out, what it is. He said, well, I can't hire you. I said, well, traditionally in architecture, when you win a project, you get the project. He said, yeah, but this house is not for me, it's for my wife. I said, get it. Say it. He said, no. She does not find you romantic. I said, Mr. Cherny, I'm an architect. I design projects for my clients for their benefit, for their enjoyment. I don't have sex with them. Then I came home and told my wife, and she got furious. She said, they're going to be out of their fucking mind to tell you that. You're a handsome looking man. I said, yeah, but she didn't find me romantic. I said, where did the romance came in? I'm an architect, for God's sake. You know, I get challenged all the time when I designed Europlex. You know, we had the same thing. I don't know if you've heard of George Soros in Europe, one of the richest men. His money is invested in Europlex when they invited all these architects, big firms, and we're a little company in Long Beach. Nobody knows us, you know. I just happened to be part of it because the project manager knew me. He invited me. So, and he said, look, you'll waste your money and time if you don't have anything new. So I go in there and we have the CEO, Mr. Soros, and we made the presentation, and I had come up with this idea called digital architecture. You know, nobody had heard of it, what it means, what it is, you know. Not even the term they had heard, digital architecture. And so George Soros came to me and said, hey, I've never heard of it. I mean, what? You're projecting everything on the walls. There's no paintings, no cartoons, nothing. You know, it's all projected. I said, yeah, that's what digital architecture means. It's a shell. It's a stage. Everything changes constantly. That's what it is. He said, has it ever been done? I said, no, because Charles Vasoki, your CEO, told me, don't show us anything if it's not fresh, new. I said, that's what I have. He said, you sure it can be done? I said, absolutely. I won't show you anything. It can be done. I've done billions in projects, you know. He said, oh, so we're going to be the guinea pigs? I said, yeah. You're going to be the guinea pigs. So we got a lot of projects from them. But there is this beautiful cat here. So
Hey,
anyway,
Dr. J, can I just say something before
Yeah.
we go here?
Yeah.
So it's so amazing talking about the connection, right? Whenever you're passionate about doing what you are to do, you're going to attract the right energy, the right people. And just listening to for example, Dr. Richard here and Yuval and how they met and just the right timing, right? One of the things that I didn't recognize is who who you were, because I actually listen to your music. Like I'm actually looking at in Amazon Music. Those are my meditation, my for stress less for, and you know, I mean, there's CDs that they don't show your face, so I usually don't even pay attention to who the person who sings or does the music. I just listen. But it's so interesting that here I am, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh my goodness. So of course I took a screenshot, and I'm gonna tell the girls, because I give them the same thing at nighttime. I put them with those music, the sleep music ones, right? And they love it. Like they're always waking me up in the middle of the night. Sometimes they have fallen asleep, and Eva, the little one, she's 6. She will wake up at 3 in the morning saying, "You never put my music." My I'm like, "You were asleep, but I'll go put it again." You know. Anyway, it's so,
amazing. I was telling you all that when my son was born, our first child, we had the hardest time with him because to put him to bed was so challenging. I used to drive him around the block, you know, do whatever I could. And it'll take us a few hours to put him to bed, and he'll be up in half hour. I said, what the hell? I mean, I got a class to teach in the morning. I haven't slept all night, you know.
yeah.
My wife are all awake, you know. So then one day my wife was playing with him, and I put this record. We had a player from Ravi Shankar. And the minute I started it, I see him playing with her and then falling asleep. I said, I found it. I found the formula. So every time he wanted to put him to bed, I played that record and he was gone. And we would actually let it run, the music play while he's sleeping, and he won't wake up, you know? So it's so interesting. So I told my wife, I said, look, he's very music oriented, you know, so we got to teach him music. So we spent $10,000 to buy the most beautiful piano, hired a piano teacher, and he was amazing. And when he turned 14, he said, not playing anymore. And I said, why? He said, it's not cool. Are you crazy? What are we going to do with this piano? He said, I don't care. And he stopped. He hasn't played music since because it's not cool. I can't understand kids, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting about music. And to me, it's just life. Music is life, you know? And it transforms you in so many different dimensions that you don't have without music. So anyway, with that, I like to, like I said, all of you welcome in any podcast to listen in. They're all interesting in some ways. And next one, 9:30 on Friday is Connie Rose. The week after, we'll have both Connie Rose and 4:30 Carla, who's a yoga, meditation, and food coach. And then Saturdays at 1 we have, and the same connection you're using now for Zoom would allow you to get into any one of those with passcode of 1. And you can just sit in and listen to part of it, all of it, whatever, or not. And that's how we are planning. And Amanda, if you're interested, you can host any one of those or all of those for us. And we'll talk. Give me a call when you have time, and we'll chat a little more and see how we can engage your company with what we are trying to achieve. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Very much. Thank you, Eddie, for your feedback about the music. Enjoy the music and have
Oh,
my kids
yes.
listen to, my kids have been sleeping with wood and water. This is what Dr. Gold recommended. I remember when I asked him when my kids had trouble sleeping, and Dr. Gold said, play wood and water. And that, my 2 kids grew up
With that,
it all night, and they had very little, once they started, they slept better, and they had less nightmares, less anxiety during the night. You know, it was amazing how it affected them.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Be well, everybody. See you next time.
take
All
care.
right.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Thank you.